Cashiers, what items makes you judge the buyer? Bangkok Mahal said. When I was a cashier in my youth, there was literally nothing a person could buy that could even bring me close to registering a thought or emotion about it. It's not the kind of job you stay in your body for. Flying A Desk said. Nothing. Just put your crap on the belt so I can see the barcodes. You could slap down KY jelly, cucumbers, condoms, porn mags and string cheese. All I'm thinking is my feet f***ing hurt. I can hear every word Brenda at customer service is saying, and she has been bitching about her divorce all damn day. It was 5 years ago, Brenda. I think I see why he left. That'll be $47.83, please. Help, I'm a hostage said. One time when I worked at Costco, a man in a long purple jacket and a top hat with a decorative cane walking stick came through my line and bought half a pallet of enemas. That was all he bought. Beelined right to them, put them on a flatbed, and came directly to checkout. Must have been about 250 enemas. So that was weird. Alaskan King Crab said. A man came in every day and bought a quarter watermelon. Every single day. Why didn't he buy a whole watermelon every 4 days? Who even eats that much watermelon? We could never ask him because he was the most shy, socially anxious man you'd ever meet, and we didn't want to embarrass him or put him on the spot. Also, a different man once bought 37 cucumbers and, unprompted, justified his purchase by saying they're for my wife. Then the light drained from his eyes when he realized what he implied and added, oh, because she's pregnant. Exilicata said. I had one guy go through my checkout with about 20 gallons of exterior paint. 15 gallons were bright pink and the remaining 5 were purple. I guess he saw my face because he told me he was a contractor and that these were the colors that the homeowner picked, and then gave a weary sigh. Told me that purple was for the doors and trim. Knockmere Loeb said. Honestly surprised the hoe didn't give him a thing of paint chips and said pick from these and only these. The hoe where I live, you have to ask the committee in charge of shit like that before you so much as repaint your door in a non-standard color. Because if the person who drives around measuring the height of your grass sees your door as a non-standard color, you're gonna get an angry letter and maybe a fine. Soulful Wonder said understandable. Usually you can tell the difference between couldn't keep up and doesn't have a brain cell to spare on it though. For what it's worth, if you want to make it go the fastest, put all your soft and vulnerable first, like bread and eggs, then dry goods and cans and glasses, then meats, then other cold stuff like milks and cheeses. Anything too large that doesn't need to be bagged, just leave in the basket and we'll scan it. I hate when I bag some boxes of food, then clothes, then a rack of ribs, then some bananas, then some ground beef, then some other fruits and veggies, then some more clothes, then some more boxes. It's like why? Machakuramitsu said. Was in one of the checkout lanes one time and I had finished putting my stuff on the belt when these people behind me, ignoring social distancing, started putting their stuff on the belt immediately after me without even grabbing the separator. I got angry and pointedly grabbed the separator to separate my stuff from their stuff because I'm not about to have the cashier mistakenly think their stuff is mine. Slutforslurpees said. When I worked alone at a convenience store, I had a lady who spent easily 20 minutes walking through the store grabbing all the snacks she said her kids liked, paid for them all, and then stopped and said no, wait. I want cigarettes, refund all this right now. I wasn't actually trained or authorized to make returns due to some circumstantial gaps in my training that did not go over well. Stargazer Natiku said. We had someone come in and buy all the ice in the store once. I think it was about 300 pounds worth. We were having a good time trying to figure out what one person was going to do with that much ice. Then my coworker who helped him load his car came back in. Turns out he worked at the Red Lobster down the street and their ice machine died. Not nearly as exciting as some of our ideas. Ramoon Zero said. I've bought absolutely nothing except a specific brand of protein bar from my nearby convenience store, few times a week for the past 2 years. I'm sure the cashier has caught onto that by now, no matter how zoned out he is. It's not my fault that it's the only nearby place which sells it and it's the only type I like, damn it. The store once was running a promotion and he told me we're giving away soft serve for free with every purchase. Do you want one? He asked with an expression like he already knew the answer. I didn't get one. MR Metrazol said. Does anybody even write checks anymore? I know a few who do, and I've used them myself. Check writers usually fall into two categories. They're either old people, 70 plus, who don't care or don't want to switch over to a debit card for day-to-day life. The other category are people doing business transactions. I've written checks to buy cattle, farm equipment, or similar large purchases. Yeah, there are such things as electronic transfers, and they have their place. But generally I'd rather just write or receive a check. I use cash or a card for the small day-to-day stuff though. String Random said. Transaction fees. If you're a business, credit cards charge between 2 and 5% of every transaction, and that adds up. High transaction fees are a big part of the reason lots of places don't accept American Express. With most apps, the transaction fee is shifted to the buyer in most cases, and that 3% fee may be worth it for the convenience. For a large purchase, however, that 3% can be a huge add-on. Liarayan said. You can ask the person you give the check to cash it in later, as maybe this month you are a bit short. At least in France it can be cashed up to 1 year and 1 week after you wrote it. But you already made the payment. The recipient may or may not do it. You have no guarantee but usually will comply, doesn't want to have it bounced back. It makes also some possibilities to write directly some information on the back of a check, so that for an association it makes accounting or organizing easier. With an electronic payment you have not that much information. It is independent from the availability of a network. You don't need all the IBAN of the other side, only its name or the name of the association, whereas with an IBAN maybe you could set up a withdrawal on their account. It can have its upsides. Gomez Figueroa said. When I was a cashier it was what they were buying but how many fucking plastic bags they needed. I didn't fill them to the point where they'd break, and yeah, something like bread, eggs, meat, chips, etc. should be bagged with care, but I would fill them economically to reduce waste. But people would ask me to double and sometime triple bag their shit. Or they would want less items in each bag to the point where they're using a good 25-30 bags for a normal-sized week's worth of groceries. Ramoon Zero said. Yeah, I walk home from the grocery store, and single bagging means my groceries have fallen through 3 times before already. I still single bag, but double bag when I'm buying heavier stuff like milk and any glass jars of stuff. It's funny because when I first read you saying a long trip from the car to their kitchen, I was confused and thought what car? It took a second to remember Americans drive to grocery stores. Lone Digger 123 said. I never judge what someone buys. If you are nice to me, why should I be condescending on what you are buying? I've literally had more people explain why they are buying a certain product than I have ever asked about why they buy a certain product. Unless it's a random exotic vegetable I've never seen before and I need to know what on earth it is and what you do with it, but that isn't judging. I do judge assholes though. The one time I've ever judged anyone, they placed a massive box filling the entire trolley, the sides of the box weren't tall for context, and the first item was 2 pieces of bread. I put them on top of each other outside of the box, and the lady screamed at me for squashing the bread and she wanted to pack her trolley instead. So what does she do? She places both the bread literally at the bottom and everything on top of it inside the box? I put her bread outside the box and the other bread on top of it. I literally saw that and I died inside, only to remember that she had it coming and deserved it. The only other time I've judged someone was in lockdown. Some lady got a small trolley and packed her groceries literally above her head. I might be able to reach the top with my hand, and NGL, I wasn't even mad, more shocked. You must have insane packing skills if you can pack so well that your groceries go above your head and don't fall off without you holding it. I was annoyed but also so impressed that I couldn't be annoyed, haha. Michelle Inbles said. I was an online shopper for 3 years at a pretty upscale grocery store. There was one order every Monday for hundreds of dollars of fruit and hundreds more of expensive small containers of Greek yogurt, kefir, kombucha, fancy butter, and all super high-end stuff like that. Like 30 pints of raspberries, 20 pints of blackberries, 10 pints of blueberries, 50 different small yogurt container flavors, etc. The order was between $600 and $1,000 every week. It was crazy and it was not a corporate order. We could never figure out the story behind it. Thiberdinato 462 said. Not a cashier anymore. When I was, the only thing that would make me judge you is if you were an asshole. I could care less about what you're buying, and considering I work at a store that sells it, you weren't the first, and you won't be the last. It was always weird when people bought huge stacks of porn. I always wanted to tell them about the internet where you could get infinite porn for free. Convenient Sarcasm said, I work in an art supply store. I don't really judge anyone for what they choose to buy. I'm very knowledgeable and give great suggestions, but if you buy something else cool. The only time I get annoyed is when new students of the local watercolor society come in because the teachers there insist on requiring the most expensive brands. These people come in and get upset that their teacher wants them to drop $200 at a minimum for a class, and then get upset with me for suggesting less expensive items because they aren't what the teacher wants. Instant Cuta said, the only time I've noticed cashiers giving a shit was like weird vegetables. I guess Dakin isn't popular. No, the one who paid attention in comments was a bagger. He made the weirdest, almost sexual comments about nearly everything. Even put some of the fruit and veg to his nose and sniffed. He walks off at some point, and I asked the cashier if she wanted me to talk to the manager about him. Turns out he was the manager's son, and he did that shit all the time. I felt awful for those cashiers having to deal with that. Ion said, I run a vape shop. If someone comes in and tell me they've never vaped and never smoked, I judge the fuck out of them. And I'm not subtle. I will ask them pointed questions like, are you sure you want to develop a nicotine addiction at your age? I might be a dick, but I'm not a hobby shop. I'm here to help smokers quit. Also, if someone pulls sweaty money out of any piece of clothing, I will use tweezers to put it in a bag in front of them. I will immediately drop the bag into the safe, and will go on to keep it separate in my deposit bag. Fuck you if you try to pay with your sweaty boob or sock money. You're disgusting. Pixel Rapunzel said, as a former restaurant cashier, the blueberry muffin with chive and onion cream cheese, the mango smoothie with bacon, and the repeat order of a strawberry smoothie with spinach, it was brown and had spinach bits, and was ordered more than 5 times. I don't know who hurt these people, but I wish they wouldn't take it out on their food. But that guy who always asked for 5 sides of chipotle sauce, I feel you, dude. I want the same. Vicky Sims said, teenagers who buy several 4-6 energy drinks. Every day. Several times a day actually. That's not okay. They're young and their system is already so used to caffeine that they need so many. It won't end well. The worst is when it's their parent who buys it for them. They're adults, they should know better. Oh, also the man who buys a plastic bag every single time he buys something. They're thick bags that can be used several times too. No reason to throw them out after one use. He could bring his own bag too if he knows he'll buy a lot of stuff, like most people. And like, he drives a car and only needs to take 5 steps outside, he doesn't even need a bag all the time. I can only assume that he throws them away. That's so much trash. Mozilli said, only one customer comes to mind. He bought razor blades, bin bags, sellotape and gloves. Probably, hopefully, wasn't malicious, but the job was so boring that I let my imagination run wild. Other than that, I never really registered what people were buying. I just scanned and bagged. I never judged people, but I did always feel sorry for those who would come in for essentials plus pack of cigarettes, alcohol, and when they realized that they didn't have enough money, they would always put back the essentials and just purchase the cigarettes, alcohol. We offered a credit system at one point so they can take both and pay us back later when they can afford to. But we had to scrap it soon afterwards because they would just buy more cigarettes, alcohol instead of paying us back when they had the money. Kitty Teddyhouse said, not judgment, but it always made me sad to see people buying tobacco products in my general store days. When I worked in the closeout store, the only things that truly made me judgmental were the books of conservative Christian propaganda written by exactly the people you'd expect. The worst ones were things like the Boy Bible, Girl Bible, and the Patriots Bible. I'm a Christian myself, and I think that's why my reaction was so strongly negative. Quackrock said, in college I worked at a convenience store and we had a mom and dad who would come in every few days to stock up on lottery tickets and cigarettes. After they'd make their purchase, they would hang out in the parking lot asking other customers for money to buy their 2 daughters food and gas for their van. The first time I met them I got them a tank of gas but quickly realized they were able to pay for their own gas and feed their kids if they didn't spend all their money on scratchers and cigarettes first. Also, their van was full of stuff and their 2 daughters, probably 3 and 6-ish years old, wouldn't be wearing seatbelts and had to sit on piles of stuff. The backside doors next to the kids were being held closed by bungee cords. Eventually they stopped coming to her store and we heard that a different regular customer called CPS, but we don't know what ended up happening to the family. I felt really bad for the kids and I understand having a nicotine addiction, but it was hard not to judge them for choosing cigarettes and lottery tickets over feeding their young kids. Saganautican said, "Well, long ago I worked as a cashier in a pharmacy. I have 2 memories of working there. Largely my brain was doing more useful things at the time. Trying to buy boxes of syringes with a reprogrammed credit card, so the number of the mag stripe doesn't match the one on the card, then offering me valid ID to try to get me to process it. Thank you for being a good citizen, and helping me produce a detailed police report. Paying for anything with counterfeit $10 bills that came out of an inkjet printer and have obvious water damage. I'm going to assume you're innocent, and you're about to get a short lesson on how to check bills so you don't get cheated out of $10 again." As Real Somnia said, "I remember one day when I went shopping at the supermarket, I bought the normal, fruits, vegetables, dairy, some beer, meat, chicken and seafood. The cashier who attended me turned out to be vegan. While she was charging for my things, she judged me on all the animal foods that I bought. She called me savage, animal and murderer. Besides that I was going to die and that would be good for the animals. It was a heavy day and I had no head to endure. I replied, I am all that and much more. For you I can be the devil with great honor, so shut up and collect my things, or we can calmly see how much chaos can be generated. I put the complaint in customer service, they fired her. I know not all vegans are like that, but it castrates me when people judge for everything." Lidium said, "Not much can make me judge a person. It's more their attitude and dispositions when buying items. Like an older guy angrily slamming a pregnancy test down on my till and glaring at a teenage girl behind him. Or the occasional dudes who place condoms on my tills and it's always the largest size. They are always so determined to make eye contact and just nod or make a comment on how small they are. And it's like I don't care. Because, for real, I see hundreds of people a day. Unless you're a Karen or underage trying to buy alcohol, I can't be bothered to remember what you bought. Also, I sincerely would not able to recognize you if you came through again over a half hour later, unless you're a regular.